Okay, so here we are reading a new topic today, uh, which is investment models, types of investment models, and so on. So here we are going slide by slide. Like first topic here we are. It is public-private partnership models, challenges which we face in PPM models, Vijay Kelkar committee recommendation on this topic, and also what all are the way forward in this case. So here if we go with the first topic, which is public-private partnership. Uh, Here, investment, we know it is defined as a process of putting money in asset for increasing production or financial gain. So, investment, what we can call it? We can call it that we are putting money in assets for increasing production or financial gains. Increasing production in case of manufacturing, or we could say that we are putting our money in assets for getting any financial. And what definition is written in the book, that money is exchanged, money investment, they said that money is exchanged for a better return or profit yielding assets. So it is also like kind of a thing that they have mentioned in the book. So we know that investment can boost the economy with surplus return or profit, and also every country wants to generate employment and opportunity. It has a responsibility on every country that they have to generate employment and opportunities, and for the country growth and development that are reflected by the production of goods and services through investments in various sectors, like if we talk about agriculture, infrastructure, communication. So we know that investment in highly appreciated for economic growth and development of a nation. Investment is very important. So we know that government has enough funds for investment, and government would be only player in it, for the public, because investment helps in various ways, like to reduce the poverty, unemployment, malnutrition, and investment models. We know that various way of investments by the government as well as private sector. Okay, so here we are going to the different slide. So which is, so here in the definition we got to know that putting money in assets for gaining financial. Now investment models speaks about how to put the money into assets, how we can do it. I will just skipping this ad in between. So if we talk about, for a country to grow, increase its income, the production has to be increased for the growth. Basically, wants to generate employment and opportunities for the citizens. Now, infrastructure to support production, transport, energy, communication. Just a minute. For investment, why it is necessary for a country growth to increase, and infrastructure we need to support production, transport, energy, communication should also be developed. So for that we need it, and types of infrastructure development require investment which can be fulfilled through different types of investment models. So basically they has basically focused on the infrastructure more, that infrastructure requires investment, and by this and through this you can write in your examination. You can make notes like this, that would be a little easier for you, for us. It is basically they have told about the features. Now if we talk about types, so first type we have is public investment model. Here the government requires revenue for investment that mainly comes through taxes. So for the public investment model, we know that government requires revenue, and government takes money, our money basically, which we pay through taxes, and large pool of savings can be channelized into productivity. That large pool of savings we have, and we can channelize that savings into productivity. Now public investment model, that is properly targeted public investment, can do much too, like to boost economic performance, generating aggregated demand quickly, also fueling productivity growth by improving human capital. So for the public investment model, we know that it can properly targeted. Public investment can do much too, and also economic performance would get increased. Generating aggregate demand could also increase, and also fueling the productivity by improving the human capital. Human capital, how they can increase, because they can eradicate the poverty and hunger, and also the they provide the opportunity, and properly targeted into public can do too much, like encouraging technological innovation, also spurring private public sector investment by increasing returns in it. Now, if we know that an increase in public investment will have strong short-term demand effect with spill over to multiple sectors of economy. Just hold on. Public investment model in which we know that increase in public investments that will have strong short-term demand effects which spill over to multiple sectors of the economy. Okay, so short-term demand effects that spill over to multiple sectors, whatever sectors, we know that already. However, it cannot fix a large demand shortfall overnight. So for the short term it is effective, and for the large it is not effective. Okay, so if we are moving from a different slide, that it can accelerate the recovery and established more sustainable growth pattern. So for the private investment model, we know that private can be sourced from domestic or international market. Private, and if it comes from abroad, we know that we call it FDI, FPI, and private investments can generate more efficiency by creating more competition, greater flexibility it has, and realization of economies of scale. So it has 3 points in it, and also increase credit growth of banks, also increase output and employment, increase income and demand. So we need that public private partnership model. It's a combination of both. So it is a basically arrangement between the government and private sector for the provisions of public assets and services. Now PPP models that allow large scale government projects such as roads, bridges, hospitals to be completed with private funding. So with that, take private funding and they build roads, bridges, and hospitals. So this type of partnership investments are undertaken by private sector entity for a specified period of time. They take time period of 10 years or something. And also these partnership works well when private sector technology and innovation combine with the private sector initiative to complete work on time and within budget. So budget will be allocated, and private sector technology and innovation would work in this goal. Also, as a PPP involves full retention of responsibility by the government for providing these services, it does not amount to privatization. Also, it helps the potential to improve the quality of services at lower cost, and it also well-defined allocation of risk between the private sector and public entity. So PPP basically helps, it has a potential, it basically improves the quality of service. We know that lower cost, because private sector know that how to deal with the how to do done a project in a certain time frame. So full retention of responsibility by the government. Okay, and also well defined allocation of risk between the risk is bifurcated in both the parties, not the government is bearing all the risk here. There is the point. Also, if we go with the another slide, we'll check out that private entities are chosen on the basis of open competitive bidding. Bidding has to be done, received performance linked payment, and PPP route can be an alternative in developing countries like India, where government face various constraints on borrowing money for important projects. It can also required expertise in planning or executing large projects. So types of investment model, we know that private model, public model, and PPP model. And all have certain advantage or disadvantage. So let's go on another thing like PPP models. So here we have, there are many models under this category which differs from each other on the basis of level of investment, ownership control and risk sharing. What are the level, ownership and risk? On the basis of technological, duration, financing. So build, operate, transfer. So build, operate, transfer, that means boat, build, operate, transfer. Here it is a conventional private public partnership model in which a private partner is responsible to design, build, operate and transfer back the facility to the private public sector. So it is basically design and build that thing and then transfer it to public sector. So in both we know that what we are doing, we are transferring. So build, operate, transfer. So for they were design, they build and they operate and then transfer to the public sector. Now the private sector partner has to bring the finance for the project and take the responsibility to construct and maintain it. Now the public sector will allow the private sector partners to collect revenues from the users. Like we know that it happens, toll tax and all things. So we know that they are giving the examples, national highway projects contracted by NHI under PPP model. Now boat annuity model, in which in this model what they will do, that a developer builds the highway, operates it for a specific duration and transfer it back to the government. Also the government starts payment to the developer after the launch of commercial operation of the project. So here a developer builds the highway, then give it to the government after a specified duration and the government starts payment to the developer after launch of commercial operation of the project. Okay, and build toll model. Earlier we read about annuity model. Annuity model may what they are doing, they are annuiting after the things are started and then government start payment to the developer after launch of commercial project. Now build toll model, in this toll based model a road developer constructor it's allowed to recover this investment through toll collection. Not like this, a toll collection can be over a period of nearly 30 years in most cases, so it depends. So there is no government payment to developer, that as he earns his money through investments from tolls, which is very high. In this model, build, own, operate, BOO. In this model, ownership of newly built facility with the rest with a private party on mutually agreed and terms and conditions. The private public sector agrees to purchase the goods and services produced by the project. So here we know that if we go a little bit dig deeper into this toll model, we know ownership of a newly built facility will rest with the private party. They are saying that newly built property or the facility, they are held by the private party. They are not a transferring thing. So they are just operating on mutually agreed terms and conditions, and public partner sector basically partner agrees to purchase the goods and services produced by the project. So they are agreeing on that particular thing, that they will purchase it, some sort of tender. Like, let's dig deeper into this and we'll get to know that how this build, own, operate to. In this variant BOT, after negotiating over a period of time, the project is transferred to the government to the private operator. And also BOOT model is used for the development of highways and ports. In this, it's a lease transfer. In this approach, the government gives a concession to the private entity to build a facility and possibly design it well, own the facility, lease the facility to the public sector, and also at the end of the lease period there is a transfer of ownership of facilities to the government. So kind of a public, kind of a toll because they need to transfer. Now design, build, operate, transfer. Design, build, operate, transfer. In this model, entire responsibility for the design, construct, finance, operate construction lie with the private party. All the things has to be done by the least developed operate. In this type of investment model, either the government or the public sector entity retains ownership of newly created infrastructure facility. So we know that in this type of investment model, the government or the public sector entity retain the infrastructure facility, and also it receives the payment in terms of a lease agreement with the private promoter. It mostly followed in the development of airport facilities. Okay, so we know that other models of PPP, we know that in engineering, procurement, construction model, here the government invites bid for engineering knowledge from private players. The cost is completely borne by the government here, and procurement of raw material and construction costs are met by the government here. So engineering, procurement, construction model may what will happen, the private sector participation is very minimal and is limited to the provision of engineering expertise. The difficulty of the model is the high in financial burden of the government. Now we have a hybrid annuity model. It's a mixture of the both annuity and EPC model, engineering and that model. As per the design, the government will contribute 40% of the project cost in the first 5 years through annual payments, and also the remaining payment will be made on the basis of assets created and performance by the developer. Swiss challenge, we know that Swiss challenge method is a new process of giving contracts. Now any person with credentials can submit a development proposal to the government. Here the proposal will be made online, and a second person can give suggestions to improve and beat up the proposal. Now an expert committee will accept the best proposal, and the original proposer will get a chance to accept it if it is an improvement on his proposal. Like what they are saying, that expert committee receive कर लेगी best proposal को, and original proposer को chance मिलेगा if can improvement on his proposal, or in case the original proposer is not able to match the more attractive and competing counter proposal, now the project will be awarded to the counter proposals. So here it work like this. PPP model, they have three various categories. So now what all are the challenges of PPP model? So better identification and allocation of risk between stakeholders is one of the major challenges in here. What all are the risk we need to identify? We need to allocate the risk between various stakeholders. So first we need to identify and allocate the risk between various stakeholders. It is a major challenge, and now the PPP route has been criticized for the not meeting the supply demand gap exactly in infrastructure facilities. They are not meeting. Now 6 hurdles which were faced by PPP model are basically policy and regulatory gaps are there. Lack of availability of long-term finance. Basically governments want to do short-term finances, or also regulatory gaps are there sometimes. Inadequate capacity in public institutions and public officials to manage PPP. Now it is less capacity in the private sector. Also inadequate shelf of bankable infrastructure project that can be bid out to the private sector. So if we know that delays in achieving commercial operations dates has led to time and cost revenue. Now we know cost revenue, it has occurred partly due to the land acquisition issue, sometimes willful defaulter by the promoters. Third one, what? Sorry for an interruption. Also irrational bidding has to be there sometimes. Sometimes land acquisition is a big trouble, and also the willful defaulter and bidding issue. And also huge difference between the project cost as approved by the government and the ones that are given to the lenders. So these all are the challenges. Vijay Kelkar committee recommendations on this thing is that the panel was appointed by the Union Finance Minister to revisit and revitalize the PPP model in Union Budget 2015 and 16. And it also major recommendation it has gives that it recommended the strength of three main pillars of PPP framework: governance, institution, and capacity. Three main pillars. And also the report endorsed setting up of 3Ps, PPP Institute of Excellence for supporting institutional capacity building activities. So these all are the recommendations that report endorsed. 3P for supporting institutional capacity building at 3PI, institutional capacity building activities. The Prevention Corruption Act 1988 should be amended at the earliest to punish corrupt practices while saving those who made genuine mistakes in decision making. So, also Swiss challenge method of awarding contracts should be avoided as it discourages transparency. So they are recommending more transparency in the project. Also, for the rational allocation of risks among the various stakeholders, the model concessions agreement should be revisited, and also the government may develop a PPP law with an endorsement from Parliament. So they want a particular law. A dispute resolution mechanism has to be there, which helps to resolve the disputes. Quick and flexible is needed to allow restructuring within a commercial and financial boundaries of a project. Also, it is not recommended for a small scale project in view of a transaction cost involved here. So not a small scale project. So there are some of the recommendations that has been given by the Vijay Kelkar committee. So if we go that what can we do ahead here in this case, the better understanding of risk perception by investors and lenders and mitigating the aforementioned challenges is the need of the hour. Also, the genuine and transparent stakeholder consultation at the project and contract design stage with an open, pragmatic approach would help in this case. Also, structured capacity building programs for the different stakeholders, including implementing agencies, customizing programs for banks and financial institutions that the private sector needed to be evolved. Also, private investments needs to be encouraged in private sector through a renewed public-private partnership mechanism. Also, a mature PPP framework along with a robust enabling ecosystem is required here. So these all are the way forward which we need to follow. Thank you.